Okay, so let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining from. And welcome to Data Driven Community Virtual Meeting. A few words about the Data Driven Community. If you check the community website, then you can notice we are managing two different branches of activities. Scroll down the page a bit to see the upcoming events. On the left side of the page, you can notice the Future Data Driven Summit, an annual joint conference we are leading and running with multiple data platform user group partners. The second branch activity, we are having the weekly meetings for the cloud data driven user group like we are having today. You are more than welcome to contact any of the community board here. Jean Joseph is the founder and the co-administrator. Ronan is the second co-admin, and Anna Weitz is the third moderator. My name is Deepthi Goguri. I'm a database administrator as well as a data platform MVP. I'm a third co-admin of the data-driven community, and I'll be hosting the session today. Together, we are here to help and serve the data platform community. During the meeting today, please feel free to use the chat for any questions and discussions as well. And you are more than welcome to use the reactions. It doesn't interfere with the course of the meeting, but if you hear something that you really love or to cheer up or you wanted to clap hands, then feel free to do so. Today, we are very honored to have Jeremy Nathan with us. Jeremy Nathan is a CEO of JN Training, a Chattanooga-based technology training company, and he's also a Microsoft certified trainer and also a Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst. Jeremy, if you can go ahead and share your screen and share a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deepthi. I'm very honored to be here too, and thank you all for taking the time to learn more about Purview. And just a show of hands, who is with the thumbs up, who has never seen Purview before?
You need to share your screen. You didn't share the
Oh,
screen
okay,
yet.
sure. Okay, yeah, can you all see my screen? Okay. So
I will use
Yes, we are able to.
your second that you stop to give a tip. When you want people to participate, don't ask who didn't show, who don't know, ask who do, and then people
okay.
are more
Oh,
to
thanks.
actually.
Okay. All right, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Ronan. So yeah, show of hands with a thumbs up, who has heard of Purview, or I guess who has seen Purview, who's actually seen it. Um, okay, just a few. Okay, great. So yeah, I'm real proud to be showing a lot of you what is about Purview and some demonstrations in here. So here's the talk, Visualizing Your Data with Microsoft Purview with me, Jeremy Nathan. And you can see, here's my LinkedIn if you'd like to connect with me. It's a QR code is my LinkedIn. And like Deepthi said, I'm an MCT, PL300 certified instructor at JN Training here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Some of my hobbies are like to hike, run, lift weights, and walk and snow ski. And there's my email and the LinkedIn URL. And here's the slides. So you could download these right now. They're right here. And let me show you what they look like. So let me just bring that up on the screen. And so it's this one. It's the today's date one, 2025-04-17. Okay. One with today's date, 4/17 at the end. So you can download these to keep them. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you all are ready to go to the next slide. Let me go to the next slide here. So you could submit a session for my Chattanooga Microsoft Azure Fabric user group with this QR code or this link here in the slides. And so, just like this is the first time I've talked with the cloud data-driven community, even though for a couple of years I've been attending a lot of these sessions, and I really enjoyed the sessions, here every Thursday at 12 Eastern. So if you all are even remotely thinking of speaking, I encourage you to speak, because I think you'll have fun, and all of us, the whole community, needs to hear about what you know. So submit a session here. And here you can join. I know Deepthi put this, the upcoming events here for the cloud data-driven community. And you can also submit a session to speak at the cloud data-driven community here with these two QR codes. So let me show you what the agenda is going to be today. We'll talk about Purview pricing. Well, of course, first, I'll go over what is Purview and explain the pricing. I'll show you how to set up a Purview account. I'll talk about permissions. I'll show you some of the types of data you can scan. And we're going to create a scan of an Azure SQL database. And we're going to work with the classification rules and create a custom classification rule. So what is Microsoft Purview, you may be wondering? Well, it's a lot of things all in one place. It handles data security, data governance, compliance, data loss prevention, insider risk management, adaptive protection. So mainly it's to look at all of your company's data. That's the data security part. The data governance part is, and I'll show you, that comes free with a Microsoft 365 E5 license to just check to see, for example, with confidential documents, to make documents confidential. That's the data governance part. And then data loss prevention to see if people are downloading sensitive documents, and adaptive protection can automatically adapt based on your needs, based on your business. So here's some of the supported data sources. Supports all the large sources like Azure SQL databases, SQL Server on-prem, Oracle, Teradata, Snowflake, Amazon. Includes NoSQL databases here. You can scan data lakes. You can scan, like here, ADLS, Gen 1 and Gen 2, Azure Blob Storage, and you can scan Fabric and Power BI workspaces to analyze all the workspaces inside of Purview. So here's the data. Here's a little bit about the data security and quality. So there's a lot of permissions that you can set permissions on every little piece of Purview, the overall Purview account and each container. So here's the licensing requirements. So to use Purview, you don't have to have a 365 E3 or E5. Basically, it can work with any Microsoft 365 business enterprise license, basically. So the E5 license gives you a lot of free parts that I'll show you. If you have an E3 license, then you have to pay for Purview, and I believe that's around $15 a month for like the insider risk management portion. And I'll show you when you create a Purview account, that's a separate fee that I'll show you in a minute. Now, to use Copilot inside of Purview, you need to purchase security compute units. So those are $4 per security compute unit, where you can ask prompts inside of Purview. So here's the pricing for the Purview account. It's 1.65 penny per asset per day. And I'll show you inside of the Azure SQL database all the different assets that so it really adds up, and the price is around 50 cents per asset per month. And here you can see on this slide here, on this slide 11 of the link to the pricing. So here's some other costs for other sources. Like you see, if you're running 32 vCore, this is just an example, 32 vCores for 1 minute at 0.01 cent per vCore, costs 34 cents. And then data map enrichment is 21 cents per vCore hour, and report generation 82 cents per vCore hour. So, so basically, you get charged for everything you scan and hold inside of Purview. So, but this one good thing that Purview does is you can see if there's duplicate data that your company is paying for storage. And so that way you could see at the source what data you could delete at the source that could be duplicated. And then this per cost, the nice thing about Purview's cost is once you delete the Purview account, you're not charged anything anymore. When you spin it back up, you're charged with the pay-as-you-go pricing. So here's how to create a Purview account, and I'll show you this. It's in the Azure portal, and just go to Purview, just search for Purview and create. And let me show you that now. So you could look at slide 13 on another screen, and I'll show you how this works. So right here, I'm at portal.azure.com, and at the top, you just search for Purview, click on Microsoft Purview accounts. So you're all welcome to follow along with me. Just when you create this account, you just want to delete it afterwards so you're not charged. So again, just type Purview, click Purview accounts. And then you see I already have one. I'll show you how to create one. Click create. And then here, you just pick your subscription, pick a resource group, type a name for the account. So you see it needs to be between 3 and 63 characters long. And it can't be another account that is already in use. And when I'm in Eastern time zone, so I usually use East US location. But when I created the Purview account, it made me pick West US for some reason. So if you have an error, you may need to change the location. So then you just click next, next. You could put in tags if you want. Just go next. There's rewriting the tags, then review and create. But you'll see at the top, I cannot create this because I already have a Purview account. You can only have one Purview account per tenant. So let me just go back and basically I'll just cancel out of this, creating the account. Yeah, and there you go. That's how easy it is to create the account. Let me move this out of the way. And yeah, let me show you. And you see on that slide 11, where you can have underscores, parentheses, hyphens, and periods are okay in there, and numbers and letters. So let me tell you about a couple authentication options. So 2 options are managed identity and the delegated authentication. Well, the easiest is the managed identity, and I'll show you how to set that up also. So the managed identity gives, it's like a user that has access to scan the data. For example, the managed identity can access the Azure SQL database. With the delegated authentication, that's more complex to set up, where you need the secret keys, and but also there's parts where the managed identity is a lot of parts of that are in preview right now. So let me go to the next slide. And here's how you set it up. It's in portal.azure.com. And I'll just show you this on the screen if you want to look at slide 11. So let me go here. So just go to the top, just type in managed, search for managed identities, click on it. You see I already have one. I'll show you how to create one though. Click on, there we go. The create button just showed up. Click create. We make this full screen. So you create, pick your subscription, pick the resource group. You could have it. So this part is pretty key here, is that you could have a separate resource group just for your managed identities. What I recommend is that you have, when you create your Purview account, you put that into a resource group, such as Purview resource group. That way, if you need to delete everything, you could delete the Purview resource group. The managed identity shouldn't really be a fee to do that, to make one. So you can put in any resource group, like a different one if you like. And that's basically it. I'll just show you how I'll go through the steps so you can see. Just click review and create, and click create. And I believe my managed identity is the one I created is in East US, even though the Purview account is in West US, and it'll still work. Okay, so when you create your managed identity, so you see that in here. And let me show you the next slide. After you set up the managed identity, let me talk about the roles here. So you have the Purview account, and that holds everything in Purview. If you want to give someone else permission to use that Purview account, you give them, and let me show you what access you give them. Let me just move this out of the way. I think it's in the next slide. Here we go. It's this one, compliance administrator. So compliance administrator, to have someone administer the entire Purview account. And let me go back to this other slide, 16. That's really easy. You just go to enter ID, go to Azure, enter ID, go to the user, and give them that role, okay, of compliance administrator. So this slide, number 17, is all of the Azure roles inside of Purview here. Of course, a global admin can do everything under here. So global admin does not need to give themselves compliance administrator, but for a company, you should only have 2 to 3 total global admins. Okay, let me go to the next slide. This is on the screen. Here's how to set up the permissions in Azure portal user. Just give them that permission and let the user, well, the user should get an email about that. So let me show you, here's how you add, before we add the managed identity to the Azure SQL, let me show you this here. Before I talk about that. So with this Purview managed identity, I'm going to click on it to show you the roles that you need to give the managed identity. So that's the name I created. You see it's in East US, even though my Purview account is in West US, still works. What you do is you click on Azure role assignments on the left with the key, and you give it storage blob data contributor. So you assign that role so the managed identity can access ADLS, Azure Data Lake Storage, and also Azure SQL databases. Okay, let me get this out of the way. So after you give those roles, the main role is that storage blob data contributor. to the Purview managed identity, then what you do is you need to tell Azure that it's okay to have that managed identity access that database. So in a SQL query, you type this with the create user, your Purview managed identity name in brackets from external provider, and then the next script is this next one, just alter role DB data reader. So it's a data reader role, and add member with that Purview name here. So the next slide. Well, now let's get into Purview here. So you can see it's just purview.microsoft.com. You all ready to see some more demo on how to use Purview here? So let me show you that. Let's go to the Azure portal. There's two ways you can get to it from that website that you saw, purview.microsoft.com, or from the Azure portal. I'll just go back to the home page, go to your Purview account, and it's on this new Microsoft Purview governance portal right there. And here, just click continue. And then you see on my screen, purview.microsoft.com. It says Purview governance, but you can also do compliance inside of here. It's all in one place. About 6 months ago, the governance portal was in Azure and the compliance was in this website. Now everything's in purview.microsoft.com. So go ahead and go to that website. If you're an admin and have the ability, and then you click on the left on solutions, I'll tell you, I'll cover a couple of these here. So let me show you a couple of the free solutions that come with that Microsoft 365 E5 license. And one is data loss prevention here with sensitive info types under classifiers. So you see, and these are also the ones that get scanned when you scan your data. Okay. We'll go over these more in a few minutes. And you can create a new sensitive info type. Let's go back. Let me show you other solutions you can do. Another big one is information protection. If we scroll down, you can see the different data, and these are the sensitivity labels here. And I'll show you explore labeled items. So, and again, this comes free with the Microsoft 365 E5 license. So on the right, explore labeled items. And then I'll show you, click on see all 166. And these are all of the ones built into basically, so it looks for full names, physical addresses, US addresses, the bank accounts, Social Security, US Social Security numbers, and all of your data, including Exchange and Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, basically everywhere within the Microsoft system. So I'll just show you this here. So let's look at, for example, I'll look at all full names. And some of these are false alarms, but I'll click here. And you can see I have it in the all full names are in these folders on the right. For example, Teams, SharePoint, and also a Copilot folder. Let me just go to SharePoint. And then I can pick the site. Find a site here. I'll just go to the shipping team, show you. And also in here, yeah, there's so many trainable classifiers, but let me show you, let me click on CL38. In here, so on the right, you see all full names, and then you see on the right which documents have those. Like for example, this car data, and then you see there's other info types in here. If I hover over that, you can see Philippines passport number, Indonesia passport number. Well, what it's looking for is that the same amount of digits may be in a Philippines passport number, but of course, we don't have the Philippines passport number in there. It's just the numbers have that same structure. You can see other ones, medical terms and conditions. So let me show you how you can open the file from here. Just click on it, and then it comes up on the right. The source gives you a preview of what it's going to look like. So you see it has last name, and I can scroll to the left and right, kind of like Excel built into here. So you see first name and last name. Well, that's showing the full name. That's why that's showing up, especially with the names of the column, first and last name. And then there could be, I'll go to the right just to show you. So some of these car VINs could be similar to these other data types that it was showing here, these sensitive info labels. So you see there's countries, color, just fake data in dollars in here. And then if you click details, you can see more about it. So click details. You see the source URL, which is the SharePoint site, the exact file URL. And let me scroll down to show you more details. So you see what's matching is that see this ID Philippines passport is coming from this number. So here I'll copy it just to look where that's at. Here I'll scroll down. You can see it also with the sensitive labels, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. And you can see that the group is Microsoft 365, language is English, and last date modified April 8th. Okay. So here's how you open it. I can just copy that file URL, copy it, press the window key on your keyboard, Control V, and enter. And it says, do you want to open it? Just click open, and it'll open on one of these screens. Here it is. So right there. And I can look to try to find that sensitive info. Go back to show you that. See what tab it was on. Give me a minute to find that. Here we go. This Data Explorer. So right here, copy that just to see if I can find that in the file with a Control F. Paste it. And since it can't find it, it may be metadata that this file is using to come that has that number attached to it right here. So there must be, there's well, actually the ID here is it's built into Purview. So like for example, the full names, it doesn't show every full name. It's just assigning it. The full names is that ID for tag in Purview. Okay, and then so you can let me close this. So basically, when I open the file, you can see when I press F12 to see the save as, see it's in this team right here. So it opens it, not a copy of it. It doesn't download. It opens the real file. So let me close this, and I'll just go back in here. I'll close these side panels. Let me just click on these to move them out of the way. I'll just click on all full names here. Well, that's basically all I want to show you with this Data Explorer here. There's a lot you can do in here. Let me show you another one under Solutions. So that was information protection. Now let me show you Insider Risk Management. This also comes free with the E5 license. And these are the sensitivity labels that you can put onto files such as general, confidential, and highly confidential. So you can see that the users being evaluated, users with alerts. I can view users. You can make policies on data. So let's go to show you the policies. So this kind of looks like the Defender, if you are familiar with Sentinel and Defender for cybersecurity. So I'll click on one of these to show you. And here, this was a policy created in 2023. There's no alerts on it. Here, let me try to get more details here of that. So where you can see I've added users in here. And I'll edit the policy just to show you. So this is a data loss prevention policy. This is basically like creating a policy from scratch. If I just clicked edit, and that's the name, click next. And for this example here, I could, let's say instead of having one person, I want to change it to all users. I'll go next, next. Like here, don't want to prioritize content. And you can match based on another policy. I'll click next, next. And you can see different indicators in here to choose, like sharing SharePoint files with people outside the organization. So these could be really helpful for you. See device. Just kind of I'll go through this briefly. You see some new ones, generative AI apps, like the Microsoft Copilot experiences, where I've had selected like entering risky prompts or receiving sensitive response from Copilot. So that's set in here. So I'll go to next. You can see different detection options, such as downloading from SharePoint. You see all the different things: downloading, syncing from OneDrive, downloading from Teams. So let me see. It says no indicators. Click at. I'll just check sharing SharePoint with people outside the organization. And there's a threshold where Microsoft will apply the threshold for you, or you can apply it specific to your user's activity, which is recommended based on their recent patterns. So I'll click on the recommended, click next. And then you can review your policy here, which is this data leaks 2023. I'll click submit. So see if it's running. There we go. Okay, it's created. May take up to 24 hours before it starts matching items. I'll just click done. So there we go. That's how you edit a policy and creating, of course, just create right here. Yeah, and you can see on the left alerts, specific alerts here, like some of these needs review. This one from a month ago. If I click on it, you can see. So this looks more like Defender, where you see the alert. And down here, you can see the top exfiltration activities, 906 or 891 emails sent to an external recipient. But I could edit this so it doesn't show every email sent to external people, because it could be, it could be just normal business. Or you could set it to show if highly confidential email or highly confidential item is sent. It'll flag that. And here's what it will look like. I'll show you on the screen. If you open up Word or Excel or PowerPoint, you just click on the top on the name, and then you can see, well, this doesn't have sensitivity items because this is a CSV file, and let me just click on, let me make sure it's saved in the cloud. Here, let me just open a brand new file to show you. So here's a brand new file with the default sensitivity label general. If I click on the name, we see the name under sensitivity. Like I said, mine is set to general for all employees. Or you set to personal, public, confidential, and pick specific people, or highly confidential. So then you can make flags that if a file is highly confidential and it's sent in an email, IT will get an alert inside the Purview system. So let me move this out of the way. Move this file out of the way. So I'll click on View All Exfiltration Activity. So on the right, you could see these were real emails sent even just a few days ago. Here, and I'll click. These are just examples here. I'll click on one to show you. So here's a real email, who it's sent to, which domain, who the recipient is, what time it was sent, the email subject. So you can see all the data in here. It's really detailed. So, and I could, so for example, this wasn't, this shouldn't really be alert. I'll click dismiss alert and say activity is expected for this user, and I'll put in my initials that I approved on today's date and click dismiss. There we go. See, then it dismissed that whole alert here. And you can review other ones and dismiss or take action on them as needed. We can look at reports on the left. We can look at user activity reports, and you can create a user activity report here. But here in a few minutes, I'll show you how to make a Power BI report from Purview data. You can see recommendations for this insider risk management, things that you need to complete, get to know it. See, I've created policies, turn on analytics, and then so on here. So it's good to go through these. Okay, let me go back to solutions. And so that's just a few of the things you can do for free. Now let's get into Purview, and I'll show you what you can do there. So I see the question, can Azure determine the user's permissions for the activity, for example, saying sensitive? Yeah, let me look that question up to see if it can determine that their permission. I mean, because when you make a policy, it's looking for all users. Yeah, like you said, no matter their title. Yeah, it's a great question. And I may have to look that up later to give you an exact answer on that. As far as I know, it's for all users. Okay, let me go back to solutions here, and let's go to the data map, and let's look at our scan. So in the data map, let me explain, is that this is how we created the Purview account. So this is where you can scan your data to see all your data in one place and to set classifiers on it and set rules to and I'll show you these rules in a minute. So inside of that whole Purview account, and again, this part costs money because you're bringing assets into Purview to look at them, and that's that fee per asset. So the different kind of, here's the different groups. The overall one is the Purview account that we created. And remember, I could put someone in there as the compliance administrator as a role on the Purview account. And then by doing that, they should be able to see everything in that Purview account. But if I wanted to get more granular permissions, what I'm showing you here is the domain, and this is a default domain here, and that's the Purview account name. Inside of the domain, you can make a collection, and that's what we've done here on the left. If I show you data sources here, so I'll click on data sources, and this is the map view. See that? Where you can see, and usually when you click on here, this is what it looks like. When you expand it, it expands to show you which, you see the collections, and inside the collection is the data source. So basically, those are the containers. Okay, you have the Purview account, collection, and the Purview account. You can create your own domains in the Purview account. Collections go inside a domain. Data sources go inside a collection. So if I want to register a data source, so let's say I've already made this Azure SQL collection, then I click register to register a data source, and now you can see all the data sources. And what's great about Purview, like I might have mentioned earlier, is if your company is using Azure SQL databases, if your company is using Fabric and Power BI, well, Purview works well to scan that because it's easier to, of course, it's easier to scan. There's more features built in, and I believe also it would be easier to contact Microsoft for support because it's a Microsoft tool, Purview, if you're scanning things that are Microsoft items. So this one, you can see on the right, you can see there's multiple Azure items, AWS, Azure Synapse Analytics. Let me just show S3 buckets, blob storage. So I'm just naming off a few here. Azure Databricks. And so the one we picked was the Azure SQL database. That's what's here on the left. And you can see other ones. Cassandra, ChatGPT Enterprise, Dataverse, which is in preview, Fabric, which includes Power BI, Google BigQuery, and MySQL, Oracle, Salesforce, SAP, several different SAP items, and Tableau and Teradata. Okay, those are all the built-in ones. So then, yeah, what I did, I just searched for Azure and then clicked on the Azure SQL database. So this one, that one there. And then once it's registered, you click on new scan with the bullseye. And this is all in the slides. So you type in a scan. I would use the word scan and then put the name behind it, such as scan Azure SQL DB with today's date, possibly, whatever you want to type in there. Of course, maybe the date you made it, but the word scan in the front. And then pick your database name. There's the credential, is the Microsoft Purview MSI system, which is that's the managed identity. I'll turn off lineage extraction. There's the collection here, this collection above that it's located in. And then you just click test connection. Of course, it goes slower when you're doing a demonstration on Teams. If you have other questions, you can put them in the chat. And you can ask questions here in just a few minutes also, your audio. Turn my camera off a second to see if that, so this connection failed. Okay, I'll turn my camera back on. So let's see why it failed. So I can click more info to see. It cannot connect to the database. I'd have to look that up to see this reason code. So of course, that's you'll come across these errors a lot. So there's a lot of troubleshooting. And I did auto detect, but this is very helpful here with these scan levels. Auto detect is just automatic detection, but level 1 you see can extract the basic info. There's level 2 with the schema only, and level 3 the schema where applied, where applicable, and subjects the sample file and custom rules. So this, I'm not sure why it failed, but I have one that's already, there. So I click test connection again. Now you just see it's successful. So who knows? Maybe it's just doing a live demonstration thing. So there we go. That's successful. Then I click continue. And then you scope your scan by picking what you like scanned. So let's say I don't need the build version. I don't need the error log. So you uncheck things. The more you uncheck, the less it costs. If you don't need to look at it, uncheck it, click continue. And then it's running on the system default, Azure SQL database, click continue. And you can have it recurring with every day if you want, as much as once per day. Or you can just click once, either one. So of course, recurring would cost more for each scan. So Purview does charge you for this the scan compute as well as that per day price for each asset. So let's just say I do once, click continue, and then you just click save and run. Or I could save it to run it later. I'll just click save to run this later. Because maybe you want to run it in the evening or something. But the good thing about saving that, now we know it's going to run because we tested the connection. It was successful. So now I can see the details of the scan, of this data source. So I'm in the data source. There's the 2 scans. The one I just created is saved, has not been ran. The other one ran on April 11th, right here. So you can click on the scan history to see how long it took, and more details here. So let me go back to the data source. I'll just go here. Let me go back to this this scans section. I mean, that's basically, all the details you can see here. You see failed scans underneath. The failed scans could be if it's something timed out or if there's some error during the scan. Okay, then after you run the scan, now let's look at the data. So I'll go back to data map view. I'll click on table view here. And I'll just click on the data source. Hang on, give me a second to show you this. Before we get into the data, let me show you how to make a, well, let me go to domains. So here's domains in here. And then we see under each domain, click a domain, and then you see the assets, click on the assets, and then you see all of the assets. So let me just show you what this is. The address is a SQL table. If I click on it, and let me show you under schema, and you see the column names here. So you see all the column names. Let me also show you. Let me just show you a few of these under properties, and I'll come back to schema. Well, one thing we see here with the schema classification, it shows world cities. Okay, world cities, distinct count 47, sample count of 128 in the table, high confidence, and that's under the schema. Right here, the city is the world cities. Let me click on that to show you. And now we see that for the specific column. You see properties for the column. So you can add people to contact of experts or owners based on this column of data. So basically, so what I'm showing here, you see this 9 of 9 items. The 9 items, those are each an asset, basically. In this address table, there's 9 columns, so you're getting charged for these, okay? These assets. Okay, but now let me show you next here. Let me move this out of the way. And I'm going to show you how to create a custom, as you saw the world cities came up from cities. So let me go through here. That creating domain is pretty easy. Inside domain is the collection. You saw how to register the data source and scan the data source. And of course, to reduce cost, delete the domain. So you could go from the bottom up if you want. The bottom is the data source. You can delete that. If you delete the collection, deletes data sources and collection. If you delete the domain, it'll delete all collections in a domain. So yeah, there are some challenges with like you see, there's a lot of permissions, and I just want to show you briefly some of these permissions here. If I go to the domain, so if I go to domain, or excuse me, so I'm in the domain and I clicked on a collection. So here's a collection, and I can click role assignments, and now you see at the top, global admin is a collection admin, and let me scroll down. Here is the least permissive one to look at this would be a data reader. Okay, data reader. To add someone, you click the symbol and search for their name and click OK. So I'm adding Ryan, but Ryan can look at this because he is the compliance admin. But if Ryan was not the compliance admin, I would give him data reader. And another important one that you'll see is data source admin. Okay, data source admin. So that's what gets real complex with it. But the good thing is this is good for security to see that a data reader can only read it, whereas data source admin can manage the data sources. So could probably delete the data source, delete the scans. Data reader, so you can only read. Okay, so that's for each item. If I go back to my main domains, see domains, role assignments, and now you see there's role assignments in the domain. Since I created the domain, I'm a domain admin, and it adds me as collection admin, data source admin. You see, those are the main ones. Okay, let me move this out of the way. So we looked at some of the compliance. Okay, now let me show you the difference between system classifiers versus custom classifiers. And then here in a few minutes, you all can ask questions. So a system classifier is just set up in Purview, like a full name, US Social Security number. But then you can also create a custom classifier, like let's say you're a healthcare company, or biological company, you have intellectual property, and you have formulas, secrets, and you can create. So in your documents, if it shows some secret ID or passwords or anything, you could have it classify those by making rules. And let me show you that inside of Purview, how to do this by going to data map and annotation management. So you go data map here, we're in there. It's all under the same solution, data map, annotation management, go to classifications, and you just click on custom to make a new one. I've made a part number one. I'll show you to make another one. I'll click new. So I'll call this IP code. Hey, this is our intellectual property code description, intellectual property. Click OK. That's it. That's all. That's how you do that. You just make the name, and after you make the name, then you make a rule for that name of IP code. So your classification rules. See, I have a part number rule. I'm going to use the same pattern for that, and I'll explain that in a minute. Well, what it is that it's going to show. It's looking for 2 characters. This is using a regex with 2 characters with a dash, and 4 characters are going to be our rule. That when it sees that match, it's going to say, hey, that's this classification. So I'll click new. This I'll call IP code rule. Enter a description. So I'll click on the classification name to select that IP code that we created. It's enabled. I use this regular expression pattern. I'll click continue. And let me put in that pattern here. Oops. Let me just see if I can copy from here. Let me just copy that from the slides here. So I'm copying the code. Move this out of the way. Put in the data pattern. Let me see here. There it is. Okay, there it is. So it's pasted in. See if the data matches that, then apply the classification in here. So you can select a file to see if that works. Here's a file, this one here. So we have a part number column. So this could be our intellectual property ID. Your sample file has to have 3 columns with a in here. So it has to have 3 columns minimum. So I'll click. You can't upload it when it's open. So I'll close this, save it, upload the file here. It's this one. So it's looking, you see different pattern matches for the columns. I'll test the classification rule. Upload the file again. So you can see it should say, let me, it says no column. Let me go back. So it should be this data pattern here. Okay, maybe because I had a space after the $sign. Let's try that again. It's always that space, right, when you copy and paste. There we go. See, that column matches the IP code classification as a string. Click OK. I'll click create. It's creating the rule. That's it. And then now our data, when it sees 2 digits, a dash, and 4 digits, it's going to be an IP code rule. It's also the same for part number rule. Of course, I may want it. I mean, since I have 2 rules, I would basically I would delete this one because I just want 1 rule for the exact pattern. If it had both, I'm assuming that it would go with the last rule created. But let me just delete the old one. And I'll say delete and apply and delete all applied classifications. Okay. There we go. And then to see to see those classifications, they'll show up in here under solutions for in that insider risk management where you saw all the, and I'll click on that again real quick to show you. And you can see some of the adaptive protection that's built in. And, maybe your question could be answered here with some of these. For example, where you could say, like where you're saying some people, if they're doing more of this work to say, don't have them show up. Okay. And you see the conditional access policies. So I'm assuming this, to answer your question earlier, is where you could put in those users for those based on those roles. What I would do is I put those users into security groups would be easiest to do that. And you see at the top, I'm using E5 Insider Risk Management, and I'll need to upgrade soon to use adaptive protection. I know it's still letting me use it here. Here, let me go back, and then we're almost done here. So that with the data loss prevention, if I look at these classifiers, sensitive info types, so you should see IP code show up, and I'll search for it. Well, I know it's not showing up in here, but it'll show up under the data map whenever you scan data. So whenever you scan it in, it'll show in here. Bring up the PowerPoint presentation here. Excuse me. So here's those sensitivity labels under information protection. Also, okay, but that's everything there. And if you have feedback, you're welcome to provide that to me. Really appreciate you all participating in this. Here's my contact info with my LinkedIn again. Thank you all very much. Yeah, and what questions do you have? And I see another question here in chat. What have been the impacts on AI models coming online? Maybe a score a CIO could click on to see what's going on, how much of which kind of data is exposed. Well, that's a great question that you have there. Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Turn your mic on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a general question. With all this AI going on, a lot of us are in conference rooms asking each other, how much, what should we be doing with AI? How much should we be doing, et cetera? Are we doing it wrong? And how much of the company information is being exposed to, Google, Llama, Meta, whoever it is who runs these models? I mean, they're getting pumped data as people click, as people use copilots, and as they use agents and so forth. And that's more and more of a trend. I'm just curious, what Azure's doing in that space. Do they have any, plan, or some place you can click to see how much of your data is going to Llama versus, DeepSeek or et cetera?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that may be more difficult to see, if you're talking, like, to answer your question, like google.com or some other AI something example.com out there. It may be harder to track, but that's why I believe that for all of you that it's safer if your employees use Copilot for the AI and Copilot and Copilot 365, because then it falls under. Then you saw where you can have that policy. You saw the policy show up.
Yeah.
that saw Copilot prompts. So, and yeah, my opinion, Microsoft Copilot is more secure than the other one, and especially by using Purview, that's where you can get a handle on people using Copilot. But you know, if it's some other website, it's Purview may not be able to track it.
Yeah. So keep it within the same tent. Keep it within, if you're a Microsoft shop, try and keep it to the Microsoft stack, as opposed to
Right. letting
people run wild with everything with, Hugging Face and everything else that's going on.
Right. Yeah, I would say that's the benefit of using, the Copilot website, Copilot prompt website, and Copilot in 360. You see this one, I have to have the security compute units to use it in Purview. But on the other hand, if I have in Azure, if I click Copilot, it'll work. See, let me click not now, and I'd say, what are my costs for 2025 so far? It may only look back 1 month.
And when you click that, what exactly is Microsoft getting when you click that arrow? They're getting your login information. Do they have access to what's on the screen?
Well, yeah, great question. I mean, so when you say they have access, I mean, we're using Azure here, right? You're using Excel, 365, Outlook. So it's your all of your data is in a Microsoft data center, physical location, secure it's physically secured by Microsoft. But and then so then when you run a prompt, it's secure also because Microsoft doesn't share this information with other people, just like doesn't share your data with others. So I guess when you say, I mean, so you're using Copilot to ask questions on this data in here.
Right. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, Purview plugs the hole where you have, people sending emails around or, Teams messages and things like this. Is there a hole for AI? I guess is what I was asking. Sounds like there isn't, because the AI would need to read the database, or need to read your screen, or would need, you know what I mean? So everywhere Purview is plugging the hole, that would be the same portal that would go to anything on Hugging Face or, DeepSeek or wherever. I don't know.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, compared to some other companies that you mentioned, that's why it's best to use Copilot for if you're talking AI security, basically, especially asking questions of what's on it, especially like you're asking questions of what's on the screen. If I ask some other company besides Microsoft questions on the screen, that's not good, in my opinion.
Right. And Purview would catch it if you're, looking at an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is, or sending an email to any of these external folks that don't happen to be Microsoft.
Well, and you could set that up in Purview to say, hey, if people are sending it to this specific email address, domain, that could show that you could have it raise flags and alerts in there by setting up those policies in here.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry to torture you like that. I mean, a lot of us are under some pressure to come up with some sort of AI story these days. But I appreciate that. It makes sense. Yeah, stick with vendors, as much as you can. Seems to be a good rule of thumb anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, that's just, I mean, when you say vendors, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, since this is being recorded and we're in my opinion, of going to conferences, Microsoft certified trainer summits, and then hearing from employees who work at Microsoft security features that I don't know of another AI platform that's more secure. So that's not only my opinion, but my expert opinion that when you have other AI platforms looking at your data, I would say it's best to have Microsoft Copilot to look at your Microsoft data. Is what I'm saying. So, but yeah, I really appreciate your questions, and thank you all so much for watching this and going along here with me.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
I may add my 2 cents here. You need to separate 2 options. One is using AI, which is actually using the client side. I will explain in a second. The second is using AI that actually use that data, the stored data. Those are totally 2 different things. When you are using the browser Copilot, you are totally secure because actually it is done in the client. It is checking your current browser, for example. It understands more because it's Microsoft AI. It knows to interrupt what actually you see. But this is the same in any AI. You can use external AI. It will give you the same options. When you are using Purview or when you are using AI that actually scan the data, this is totally different. In this case, the AI is going to the data itself. So separate those 2 options always. There is no issue with security in any AI that is using, as I said, like the browser AI. So you can use ChatGPT, you can use the Chinese DeepSeek or whatever you want.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, and you all, let Ronan, let us, this community know if you'd like to see more security focused sessions. This along with this AI age, it's very important. And I mean, and I know we're done here, so we're towards the end. So wish you all a very nice weekend here. Hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And thank you all again for joining this session today. And we will see you soon again. So happy holidays, everyone. We have a long weekend over here in the United States. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks. See y'all later.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Great talk.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.